Uh, my name is Benny. Benny Leon. So I'm the discipline leader of the product design. In the School of Design PolyU. By the way, I think you guys are supposed to sort of interested in the senior year's application, right? So I think this day, because there wasn't any feeding course, as we had before, like associate degrees, so I think we can predict the number of participants today will not be many. By the way, I would like to try to tell you a little bit more, not really about the course, but I would like to talk about the reason why we are talking or dealing with industrial design and product design. By the way, any one of you are from, have the background of product design before, or industrial design training before? Any of you? No? Do you know what is product design or industrial design yet? Huh? So graphic design, you know graphic design? Graphic design, visual communication design, right? I think I would like to try to give a very brief or simple differentiation. I think the way that design is going to do, as you know, is trying to be on, sort of bridging up the artificial world and the natural world with human being. The designer's job is actually trying to help human being to understand, to interfacing, what we usually call interfacing, and or maybe by means of much more intelligent way of communicating. Okay, so if you're a graphic designer, visual communication design, means that you are using different specific ways. We normally say it's something about two-dimensional, graphical, visual way of interfacing you and to the artificial world, or maybe the nature, right? And then product design, on the other hand, is talking about what? Objects, things, 3D, three-dimensional. So this chair, for example, is a kind of way that a designer will try to give a language, designed it in a way that it could helping people understand how they could interact with it. This is the place where you can rest your hand, but also you can put stuff on and work on it, right? So it shows you, but also telling you with this sort of hinge, yeah, and particularly emphasizing it, giving you an idea that it could be turnable, okay? So this has been sort of carefully designed. Now, I think that maybe you have some sort of question. Why should we, in this day, as you can see, we have produced so many objects and products. Why should we do design, product design, 3D design, and I would call it physical or tangible. Physical, yeah, 物理嘅 tangible 有形嘅 okay, intangible 無形 okay. So why should we do that? Because we have so many of them. So I would like to tell you a little bit the story rather than talking about directly about the program. We're actually entering the time of some paradox that we are, sort of confronting today. As I just said, we have so many of physical stuff that we have, right? But then it also shows that ideologically, 意態上, okay, we are very, very poor. Why? I think I want to show you the kind of water bottle. You guys have water bottle yourself, right? I got one long time ago, and I just got this maybe a few years ago. This one is even earlier. This one costs $60. This one costs $350. One is really designy, right? One is very basic. But the so-called very basic one lasts at least 5 years' time. But this one that I bought, the reason why I bought it is actually for my wife. I don't need such a stylish, bottle. But I think my wife fit, It just got a very lovely, sort of ribbons, a strap, and then a metal, cover or so. But of course, this metal cover is not the whole cover is made of metal. Actually, the producer, the manufacturer, tried to make it look elegant, so they make a layer of metal on top of a plastic. So what happened, if you see the slot here, it's not a really round slot. It's a kind of a, I would say, ellipse, oval, maybe, or extended, kind of a rectangular oval shape. And so what happened is this part didn't attach well. So what happened is it kept turning. So when it turned, what happened? It's actually trying to become a kind of cutter. It's spin and spin and spin, and then this part worn off. The stripe's gone. So it was how long? I mean, it's only a 4 months time, and it's gone. So you also see some sort of a very interesting thing that, water bottle looks, things, and you think it's water bottle, but in fact it's not, right? That's the designer's job, these days seemingly. And when you think it's a barrel, this is actually a mini fan. Yeah? So product design, industrial design, at the beginning, we always emphasize about what we call the functional semantic. Functional semantic, 功能語義. We design object like designing a specific word and sentence or phrases that you want to express to someone. As I said, you just use 3D product to do so, right? So, but when you are trying to play with so-called form and the functional semantic, it didn't so function. It's actually disguised or maybe cheap. 做咗啲好似搞笑戲片 gimmicky. So it happened that we have a lot of this sort of stuff. Yeah? And somehow, you may ask yourself why we still use, I mean, these days you guys also use electric fans, right? I'm not your generation. And in my time, I don't use electric fans. I use, really this sort of fans. Okay? And human being now really depends on electricity a lot. Now, so we used to do this, Have you played with that? Maybe this is not for you anymore. Now we use launcher. And then, even eating popcorn. In the States, they design a populator, a machine that would deploy, the popcorn. When you say pop, it comes to your mouth, okay? And so, on one hand, we play with the thing. On the other hand, we obsess. We obsess in the sense that we use objects. We use things like using something like playing with it. Like, so this is obviously you see a lot of this sort of Iron Man, this sort of stuff, appear in a normal sports shoes or training. And sometimes you see that happen already. The designer's name is called Jeremy Scott, okay? And he goes on with his journey with this. Have you seen this? Have you ever seen this particular design? No? Of course not. Why? Because this pair of shoes was displayed, but then within a month time it's been complained, and then it has to be forced to take off of the shelf. And I also show you one thing about why the physical stuff is important to deal with. It's like, this is actually the subway screen door in mainland in Beijing. In mainland China, they're actually using a lot of the similar thing that what we are using today in Hong Kong. And then, I don't know whether you heard about an incident in 2014. In fact, before 2014, there are several incidents. But this one is the most notable. In the morning, a lady Yeah, that was very, it was very crowded, and then the people pushing in the rush hours, And there was a lady trapped in between the door of the train, but of course that door was closed. And then also later on, this screen door also closed. What happened? She was trapped. And then, funny enough, the driver of the train didn't know. The station, I don't know what those servicing guys didn't know. Then the train moved. What happened is she was like low, and then she was crashed. The bones, was all fragile, and she died. So later on, when there was a specific, expert from Jiaotong University, Tongji, particularly for the transportation kind of expert, was trying to review the whole incident, and he mentioned few problem about the design. The first thing that he mentioned really was not about, there's a missing of electronic signal or whatever, the monitoring system not perfect. The first thing he mentioned, say, the physical distance, between, the door, the screen door and the train door is actually not really being carefully considered. This is why you have such a space that allow people being trapped. So this is a very basic physical design. Why don't you design something that we should not allow, a human being in such a size, being trapped inside? So this is actually something to remind us. Because in China, and even in Hong Kong, we rely on so much about electronic. We believe the electronic can warn us, because they did actually install those sensors. It's only happened that, don't know why, there's something wrong with the sensor inside. It didn't function. And then the girl died because of that. Can you imagine that we are in such an advanced, modernized world? Yeah? People can kill like this. Okay? Now the other paradox I want to share is when we train at the time, I don't know, if you are interested to come into the program, my goal and my colleagues' goal is not trying to make you someone, okay, you are the coolest, very fashionable, very, I don't know, people say, the designer should be the one who should be trendy, should be, doing something which is cool, and no, sorry. Design, product design, any kind of design, the basic idea that why we need to have it is because we want to change the world. Change the world to what? To a preferred and better world, right? Having a much better quality of life without sacrifice. Sacrifice what? Sacrificing something what I showed you. Mentally, we've been ill. That we are consuming things that we shouldn't consume. Okay, we're designing things that we shouldn't design. So now design is actually become a kind of problem. I show you why it's a problem. I think you know that we are now having smartphone, right? We're having smart device, mobile device. And all the touch screen design was so convenient. So just at your fingertip, you can have a lot of stuff. In the West, you know that there is a so-called on-demand economy. 隨需經濟. So what is on-demand? Means that you sit, you don't need to walk over somewhere. You just turn on your phone, turn on your tablet, iPad, and you select the apps, you touch on it, and you order. And then you can have everything being served. Whether you want to go anywhere you want to go, whether you want food, whether you want someone washing for you, or anything that make you lazy, okay? So I just quote here, from Steve. I like his statement here because it's actually pointing out the problem. Because conveniency, you guys are now being so convenient. so that we've been very depending on it. So what you call it free of friction. The world they're living that we don't have friction means what? You don't need to be patient. You don't need to wait. You can, in China, if you order some food, if the delivery boys, come late, and you can actually sort of send a kind of a warning to his company, and he will get deducted off the salary. So it's a punishment for him. So it's intolerant. No one can be late. Yeah. So for that going on, so you feel very easy. Everything that you can get with a push a button within a few minutes, or maybe the kind of time that you will have it. And then he mentioned about it what I just said. The value of the social value that eroding. And then we don't have the kind of resilience. So resilience means that you can actually be able to deal with situation, no matter hard or easy, right? You can deal with things much in a flexible way. But that will not be the case. I think you guys have you? This is not a new movie, of course. I don't know whether you have seen this, but you're still a kid. Or if you don't, maybe you get online and have a look. And there's actually a whole story about how the future human being has become the exaggeration version of what Stephen mentioned. People are just sitting there and then they're pushing. Even their friends, passing by, because they all move with this floating chair. Yeah? And then they even friends is next to them, they don't need to talk because they just need to. I don't know whether you guys did it today, And then later on they become all fatty and maybe I should go there, right? I'm so skinny. And so when you see that there's a projection in the future, that all human being, the human brain, that we are talking about computing power. This is a very strong and very maybe optimistic, but I think it's really possible, kind of prediction, saying that in 2023, computer will surpass a human brain already, okay, the computing power. And then in 2040, listen, in 2040, the computing power of the, so-called the machine will surpass the whole population of humans. So we add all together, cannot even resist and bid against, the machine. But on the contrary, as we move on like this, what happened is was also a research talking about the kind of mental ability degradation. Yeah, is that every 10 years, yeah, our sort of intellectual quality drops. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, every 10 years. So the design we try to enable us good now become not really a good thing. And last, the paradox free. So when we are saying that we make things smarter, yeah, we actually making ourselves dumber. So what happened? So what would be the possibility when we are talking about now product design, physical design, tangible design? So I'd like to show you maybe a possible future. Segment had actually written an article in the Harvard Business Review in 2014 talking about after the so-called post-industrial economy and then the orange economy, what would be the next economy? He boldly called it that should be human economy. Why is that? He mentioned that because he said in the future, the only way the human being will make sense is we need to integrating the digital capital. Means digital capital is the artificial intelligence, the digital means, and together with the human commons, yeah, the thing that human can share and bear, and so that will make a better livelihood for people. So what is the human commons? This is actually the value that he thinks that we will win the AI. Yeah? Creativity, passion, character. So imagine that if you guys, any one of you will become a designer, interaction designer in the future. Firstly, you won't do the same interaction design job as you are doing now, because you don't need to do the interaction. This, the smart machine will talk to people who interact already. You don't need to design it. But the only thing that maybe the interaction designer could do, one of the possibilities is, what about who you're going to interact with? If this is a kind of a being alike, not exactly human, but if you want to make it a being alike kind of thing, what sort of character? Yeah? So you think about 形象顧問, okay, right? So a designer may become that. And then, human beings have the culture of collaboration. Now, he just called this field. I don't think that this is the only field. Maybe some of them AI can do it too. But this is something that will remind us. Look into deep inside the human quality. So design, product design, industrial design in the future have to look into this. I'll give you an example. We already talk about AI. What's AI strength? If you purely talk about thinking, I call it 1D, 2D, 3D, 4D, 6D. 1D in computer, it does have a 1D dimension. It's non-dimension, right? But it's a sub-dimension. Your brain can imagine that also. Okay? It's not exist, but it's there. 2D, something is, 3D, flat. Yeah? It's only one plane. 3D we know. 4D is what? Moving. Yeah? Moving, animated. XD is something very interesting. Why? Because it's beyond the reality. Nowadays, actually, computer helping us to do sort of X-dimension kind of work. What is it? It's like when you're trying to test. If I want to test these things, if I want to test an object, I'm giving some data or data, numerical, accurate data saying that what is the structure of the thing, what is the strength of the passing and everything. And then after that, maybe you say, okay, help me to tell me how many times did I drop this thing in average that it will broken. Okay? But you cannot do it, maybe you have to do it physically. Will you do it in the real time? Yeah? 4D. But then computer, if you have sufficient data, you input it, you can intensify. Maybe within a few minutes it can tell you already. You can keep dropping using the numbers, figures that you got, right? So in XD, actually things can be extended and compressed. That's its magics. And in our brain, we can do that too. But all that compared to the so-called intelligent machine, we outnumbered or whatever. So we fell. So you guys heard about the terms being quite popular today called design thinking, right? 設計思維有冇聽過? Design thinking, right? So I said, if you just talk about thinking, no way, AI will win you. But what is the strength of human? This is the strength of human. We are bodily being. Now, I think you have seen some video from Boston Dynamics, and they are now making robots which is bodily so fit, so great that you can even see them move like you, right? And then you will say, Manny, why do we think that this is better? This body that we have is different from the body that the Boston, electric, whatever they are. Why? Because your body have what? Have the embed of the time. How many? How old are you? 21, 20? How old are you? 19? 24? So you have 24 years of memory and culture. So this is actually what we call cultural being, because you also embed, you are not anywhere, you are in Hong Kong. Okay? So we all have a common memory. So when we collaborate, the reason why we collaborate is not only about the functional means is also about some sensible reason. Okay? So there's a meaning, it's a meaning being, it's a bodily being, you can feel and sense stuff. Whereby if you ask AI to design something for you, he may design something look okay. But when you sit on it, you feel on it, what sort of material, what sort of tactile, what sort of quality it should have. Only you should know, right? So I would say in 2023, because we talk about 2023 with AI will surpass human being. In this so-called 分水嶺, okay, this particular splitting line of that, before that, designer are designing the objective objects, things. You're designing a brochure, a graphical designer is a brochure. Okay? I design a chair, is designing a chair. But the job of those days is only designing the objective stuff, mainly. But in the coming time, we have to embrace and also include and integrate subjective. What subjective means? Your sensation, your feeling, your the tactility, in-depth research into all those understanding. And so how to actually enrich, a kind of experience. So design thinking will be nothing if it's not with the embodying ability. So when you guys are coming in, no matter what design program that you're in, you should be thinking about how should I learn about embodying ability. Not only, what do you mean by design? It's actually you want to embody something that you can make it more sensible and meaningful for people, right? 體現啊，將一啲嘢附上一個物質嘅身體，或者一個物質，或者一個方式去體現。A way, so a movie, a graphic, a visual. Also, you have to embody something on it. You don't just need, you just don't only put things on it. All the action is of embodiment. Okay. So design embodying will be the future. And because we also conduct research in the School of Design, actually in 2 years ago we conduct research with the mainland Chinese and also the India, in the 4, totally 8 cities, major city in China and India. We try to find out what the millennials, so-called, the project is called Internet of Life. So how they actually lead the life with the help of the internet, how they actually change them. And we find that there is a lot of worry. I mean, the parents, the older generation, that number one, of course, like you guys, we're spending at least half of our time this day in the virtual world, in the extreme. I'm not saying it's exactly that, was saying the extreme, half of our day, half of our time. Okay, on and off. And so the parents say, okay, what we really want the children to expose is actually not, again, to this digital thing. Most of them are saying that they want them to expose to all this. The outdoor, the physical game. So that's why maybe the Pokemon Go, I think you guys have seen, although now it's not that popular, but at that time there's so many parents, kids and parents, together. This is actually a game that the parents would like to want the kids to play. Now, I showed you one design that also out of the other research that we have done. This is a product. So we may design something again like another sports shoes, another I don't know what, but if you are doing product design, you can do design which is doing a different so-called I don't know what it sound. You guys can hear the. this design was not only for so-called youngster. It's actually for the we call course generation. We're actually sending to around 12, 10 to 12, families in Hong Kong, and we've been we have tested, and then later on we return for interview and try to ask what to share the experience. And then we found, I think, of course, one or two have been dropped out, but most of them, nearly 80 some 90% of the parents and family and kids value the kind of opportunity they can make use of this machine, that they can reopen the dialogue. Because most of the kids was around 12 to 16, 18, the biggest, elders. And so they have a big problem that once they get addicted to this so-called internet or mobile phone, and they've been when the kids went home, they go home and then smash, close the door of the room, and then that's it. And then when it's dinner time, they come out, they came out, and then they just have maybe half an hour, and mostly not 1 hour dinner, and then and then dash back and then close the door again. So, but with this thing happened, I mean, this intervene in the whole situation, things have been changing. They have started to reopen the dialogue. So the physical design can actually do something to change. Yeah, we call this particular lamp called lamp. And it's a display, it's a phone charger, so we force the people to put the phone down. And then the game book, so only physical games, right? And then the design of the game books actually would have 6 stacks of games, but they have been deliberately designed in a different way. So some of them use mind, so the parent is stronger. Some of the game is physical, so that the kid is stronger, supposedly. And then the third is a kind of bodily interactive. So you have to do it a pair. So we have also one very interesting card. Do me a favor card, 人情卡. So for example, if they the so-called, because the card you have to draw, random. So if the daddy, mommy draw a card which is that he need to do push-up, she needs to do push-up, but she cannot do, for example. So she will ask a favor from his kid or her kid. And then the kid do it for her, but he needs to do something. For example, hugging, or gazing each other, or smiling to each other for, half a minute. So all this is trying to facilitate the bodily interaction, right? So this is actually a design. It's a design. Now, I would like to tell you that, because you may believe that we have only one brain, but even the brain that we have 2 halves, and we have another thing that there are 3 layers of brains. But furthermore, you should also understand that we have more brains, not only here, but also all through our body. So the head, of course, is the most important. Yeah, 100 billions of neurons, and then the heart. Actually, the heart we say, what you think, what you feel, how you feel, and your guts. You say guts feeling, right? Guts feeling. So all that is not only this, it's all together. So the body itself, it has so much meaning and needs for us to rethink about how to design. So I think in the future, what happened to the skill design, and we would like to make change, of course. In the future, we don't have maybe only the kind of a product design, industrial design as like the vertical stack of expertise, but maybe we'll do it as a kind of component. But for all design, unlike most people said, all design should start with digital literacy or basic communication skill and all this. I would say all design should start with physical embodying training. Okay, no matter if you're doing graphic, whatever, or maybe we should start with something to try to understand the interaction of you yourself as human to other body and other people, the nature, the artificial world, whereby there will be the other part of the component, like the 2D, 3D, XD, 4D, all together. Okay, so that should be the very basic, and then later on you will pick other component to compile, sort of build up your own specialties. So I don't believe that in the future there will be only industrial design. You may have a system product design, sustainable product design, maybe interaction product design, interactive product design. So that would be a bit much more different than it should be today. So I'll show you other thing that why it's not only us doing that. I'll show you another video.
A lot of people feel like they spend too much time on their phones and miss out on the things that are right in front of their eyes. But it's hard to use our phones less, because we've come to depend on them. So, as an experiment, we've created a simple way to help you have a digital detox. It's called Paper Phone. All you need to do is choose the things which are important to you, and our app will print out your very own paper phone. A paper phone can do most of the things a smartphone can do, but it doesn't distract you as much. It replaces your phone for a day. It helps you do things in a more focused way. We hope this little experiment can give you a break from the digital world and help you focus on the things that matter the most.
If I tell you that that would be a kind of possible design that product designer will do in the future, not necessarily when you're talking about let's design a communication tool, a smart one, and then say, oh, smart one must be digital. No, it could be this, right? And as I said that other than this objective design for objects, for the objective world, the challenge for us in the coming time is how to deal with this integration of this objective and subjective together. And so every part, every sentence of us will become a kind of really interesting thing for us to explore. Now, because of that, I would move on to something even greater. Because people have been talking about human-centered design, user-centered design for quite a while. And in fact, back quite some years ago, I think year 1999, when I wrote an article with Dr. Hazel Clark, and actually she was interviewing me about how do I see Chinese culture and the relationship with design. And at that time, when I review and study about the traditional Chinese, classical Chinese culture, I find something very interesting because of that tradition of dealing with the sort of harmonic relationship with women. It's like to whom? Not only to human being, but also to the nature. So what is life-centered design? I think the future is very complex, it's complicated because everything adds in, We have been faster with all the machine that we are now digital, online, we have been more global, more able to reach, to every part of the world. This is what I call the 0 and 1, On one hand, we get everything. At 0, suddenly you could get nothing. Why? Because if you get the internet, line or anything broke down, we have nothing. So for the very complicated future, human-centered, people-centered, I also advocate this day people-centered. Now, people ask me what is the difference of the people-centered and human-centered. Human-centered is basically idea of integrating the understanding of, how human being as like objective way seeing us. So you are human, I'm not human. I'm a researcher, so you are human. Is it true? Yeah, well, from the scientific point of view, you are human. So human centered is like studying you. Ergonomics, human engineering, so-called ergonomic factors, but also your behavior, That is from a more detached angle. And you talk about user-centered, it's more about a use case understanding. When you're using, when you are processing and interacting with things and product environment, so that they are studying you as you are the user. Now, people-centered is someone that with a mindset that they are within one of us, and we need to work together, co-research, but also most importantly is a cultural empathy. You have to understand, if you are not Chinese, for example, it's very hard for you to conduct a people-centered research. People-centered research has to be understanding the culture, has to be doing the research method and approach in a much more, collaborative manner, not like I'm the expert, you are no, so you activate. So there's some sort of mix of theory, with the West, but also from the East. And also, if you guys have heard about the consumer-centric, right? Customer-centric, consumer-centric from business. So in the master degree we are teaching, we have said, okay, the design, we talk about user-centered. The technology guy, we talk about human-centered. The business guy, we talk about, customer or consumer-centered. And for holistic, we should see, it is like people-centered. But that's still not, well, this is actually some way that I'm trying to describe what I just said. But that's not the way that we can easily to deal with a complexity in the future, because we always exclude the factor other than the artificial environment that we are living in, like this room. But honestly, I hate, I really hate the air conditioning, because it's actually making a lot of noise. But in this winter, or not really winter, close to spring, we don't actually need such air ventilation here, right? So that we overuse it. Now, but when you are talking about in the future, a much more sensitive approach is like we firstly consider what will be doing the best, the good, for the environment that we are living in. So if you look around in Hong Kong today, if you can sense in the winter those haze, those fog, 煙霾, 嗰啲烏霧啊、雲霧啊, where they come from? Firstly, Hong Kong people manufacture, build factories in the Pearl River Delta before, and then it often kick off the so-called the eras of, let's say, industrialization, modernization in China. And so now we eat our own food, right? We sleep on our own bed, 自食其果. But this is actually ignorant, because we just ignore, why we do that when we are designing a system of production. Should we think about when we're designing objects, should we design it? Should we design it? We didn't say, okay, we have to design, because you are a designer. Sorry. Designer's job is actually not to say, I have to design. You should say, I have to write to design or not design. That's designer. Okay? So, from us, we should start from the ecology and move back to the ideology, so to correct our ideology, whether our way of thinking is right, because is it good? And then in the end, we make use of the technology. So that should be the kind of hierarchy. Okay? Life Center is demanding on that. Now, I'll show you a diagram by Oxford. And here's a guy talking about the curved cycles of creativity. I think very interestingly, you'll see something very interesting. Like this half is nature, right? This half is culture, okay? When you see the NA or A is actually available for us to, further develop. NA is more or less, being explored. So nature, now science is actually about exploring and discovering, right? Discovering what? One of the most important things about nature, okay? Human nature, nature's nature. So engineering is having to, really deal with it to realize, become it, make it. And the culture part is art and design. Now, this part, nature, is in fact something that we have to put more effort to understand. So I show you a last video.
Hello, nice to meet you.
The Netherlands produce about 50% of all flowers in the world. The most famous one of all, the tulip, of course. Flowers are really remarkable organisms. We've known for decades that they can actually communicate to each other through their root system.
For the past 2 years, Wageningen University has been working very closely with Google to use cutting-edge technology to look deeper into communication with plants.
Hello.
We collected an incredible amount of information. Using automated machine learning, we turned this information into a new rudimentary language, which is becoming more and more sophisticated over time.
And the more we listen to nature, the more we discover the amazing things it has to say.
Okay, Google, talk to my tulip. What do you want?
Water, please.
We've applied all this research into our latest product, Google Tulip.
2 granddaughters, Frances, we just had a second baby.
That is so interesting.
And
Finished. Nothing else.
More.
Yeah.
You promised more water.
At Keukenhof, we're very excited about tulip technology. We like to know what tulips need, and what better way than to ask them.
I need water. More light.
Please improve humidity.
Please come here. More space.
No more compost.
Thank you. Who are you?
Why are there so many
like this way?
more life?
Of course, this is only the beginning. We're rolling out the tulip language in the beginning of April, but we're already well underway with several updates. Hello,
No,
cactus.
leave me alone.
It's so great not to have a one-way relationship with the tulips anymore.
What is the meaning of my existence?
Tulip is a breakthrough in human-plant communication, letting users around the world communicate with any tulip.
Okay, Google. Play my favorite music. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Drop that beat.
Okay, maybe you see it as kind of a joke, but scientists are doing that, but it's not only scientists. I tell you that in the future, our school would like to sort of encourage more, not only design, doing on their own the design project, but also interacting with other disciplines. So this will not be happen all the years, but maybe particularly some specific projects. In fact, this day we have been working also with company outside. So, and also the challenge itself is not only about design, it could be about business. Some of them is about actual technical problems. Now, I'll just quickly run through the product design things. You know about the history of the poly, I don't want to talk too much about it. But I think one thing you have to know, this so-called industrial design discipline is actually one of the best, 10 best in the world. It was, of course, but will it be? It depends now, of course. It depends on how it goes in the future, but it had built its reputation in the world. And I think because of what? Because of the alumni that we have been sort of, maybe I would say nurtured. And this is mainly to do with the industry. So Eric is very famous in the States, Ireland, mostly in around this Asia and in the world. Wing, Eugene also. I mean, they are helping industry company around the world. And also Hansen, Pinky Line. I think Gabriel was the one that Dai Si Heng, okay, if you are coming in, so it would be your Dai Si Heng. He's the first one who did with the rechargeable stuff in Hong Kong. Yeah, he actually has his own factory and his own specific innovation, let's say, unit. Anthony Lowe, of course, I mean, he's been the now the vice president of the Renault design, Renault. Renault now together with Nissan is the world's biggest, automobile company in the world in terms of quantity. And of course, other than that, you see that our alumni is actually also dealing with culture. So we're not only doing industry. So you see that Dennis Chan, winning the Queenie, and then Ma Ki-chung is actually one of the very influential researcher in terms of traditional Chinese cultures and artifacts. Monica Zhang is also making use of her expertise to do with tableware and the tableware related to the cultural diet. Dorothy Tang also, something maybe with the culture background. And other things like the Jay, they are more young, this is a younger, graduate. Eddie is, I think, 3 years ago graduate here. Some of them are 6 to 7 years ago. And then Future, also you see the graduate dealing with technology like Catherine is working on languages have the combined integrating of the air purifying function. And she already set up his own company. Kelvin, of course, you talked about sustainability. So there are some of them are doing sustainability in the future. And then Adam is actually is the award winner in the RCA in the Innovation Award and also the Dyson. And he has been funded by RCA to start his own specific company called TGO, dealing with a lot of tangible interaction design with the, as I said, human being and the artificial and digital world. And Emily Tang, this is a recent graduate, and she has started to open a studio dealing with so-called the elderly population, I mean the older aging population, inclusive design, very meaningful work. And so, okay, the teaching team. This will be the teaching team. Okay? So I think we have been, there will be teaching staff from Hong Kong, from Korea, from Taiwan, from mainland China, from Brazil at the moment. But we are also going to recruit some more staff. And I think the only thing I would like to just give you a quick flip is about the differences of a 4-year and 2-year. You guys are in a 2-year, okay, senior year. So it would be a 2-year, 63 credit requirement. I think you can go to the website and find more information. There are some sort of university requirement that you need to take. And I think because of the technology, as I mentioned before, the AI, there's a specific sort of discussion online while the Fast Company and also with a specific report, tech report, by the quite famous John Mayende. So that's why you will see that we have some new subject coming in. But that would be mainly for year 1, year 2. So you guys coming in the senior may not be able to take that, but maybe you can sit in. So also there are some sort of specific discipline compulsory. Starting from the year 4, you will be fully engaged with all that subject here: human scale, ergonomic, entrepreneurship, interface design, product design history, professional practice. And this is the most important capstone project. It lasts for at least nearly a whole year. Nearly a whole year. And it will be the time for you to show up all your ability. And so there is also elective. I don't go through the study pattern because, as I said, you guys are in the year 3, year 4. And this is as something to show you about what year 3, year 4 would need to sort of take on. Now, that's great because I don't want you bored with this, because you can actually find out all the information in the booklet, in the physical paper. So that's why I've been spending a lot of time talking about what would be the exciting thing to do, in product design in the future, not only now. So any question, you guys would have. Although I know that not many of you are, trained as a product or industrial designer. Any specific question that you have? much time. Yes.
So are we supposed to believe that we're really talking to the tubers?
Well, I think that's the problem of how scientists and engineers see the relationship, with the nature. But I show it, and it's only because that is an interesting way to show that it is actually possible. But for design, I don't think that's the way. We need to find out what would be the sensible way to, why we need to learn and know about parts, for example. So I think that should be an important thing for us. Before we act, we should ask why. We should understand why. Should we do it? I think that's the important job as a designer. So, any other question? Yes? Internships, yes. It's in the summer. Okay? So normally we'll give you an opportunity to list you the kind of company that students have been working with before. But still, we welcome the student themselves to seek to look for the company they would like to work for. So of course we will provide a list, but then you should actually find out whether the list of companies are viable or good for you. Okay. Any other question? I think we have one more question before I go. I think we need to be time to. Okay. Just one more question. You know that. Okay. Okay. Thanks.